Good morning. Oh, what a lively bunch we are this morning. Welcome, welcome. As we gather this morning on this Sunday in November. If you are here for the first time, welcome. If you're here for the 100,000th time, welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I am Christina Church, and it's my pleasure and my privilege to serve this wonderful community as your minister. If you are new here, we would like to invite you to fill out one of these little green cards that you'll find somewhere near your seat, and let us know if you would like to receive some information about our weekly gatherings and what's going on in our community, because we'd like to share that with you. If you have a big joy or a big sorrow that you want to share with us, that you'd like shared from the pulpit later in the service, you can fill out a yellow card to let us know what's on your heart today. We are a physical community that gathers together in body, and we are also a virtual community that gathers together through the magic of Zoom. So I want us to say hello, that camera over there on the side, to our beloveds on Zoom today. And thanks to all of our worship leaders for helping to put the service together today. Elaine Bowen, our worship associate, Colleen Taylor, our director of religious education, John Wickersham, Emily Hall, Vanessa Vesely, David Weaver, some of our music leaders today, and the amazing choir that you'll hear later, as well as our tech folks, Julie and David. Thanks to all. It takes a village, doesn't it? A couple of announcements before we get started. We are going to have a Thanksgiving meal here on Thanksgiving Day at 2 p.m. So if you're interested in joining us for that, you can find more information, I believe, online and in the e-news, and we'd love to see you there. If you took an ornament from the giving tree for a child in need, they are due back here with the present and the stuff that you're going to bring for the child by December 1st, so we can get ready for that, to make a child's Christmas more joyful. And finally, we'll be having a community meal that is sponsored monthly by the youth on the first Sunday of each month. We'll be having that on December 1st, and we invite you to join us for that too. It's going to be a great time, as always. So let's get started.
As the day is dark and we gather with our family and seek out refuge with our friends, let the fire burn brightly and the harvest be plenty as we await the dawn and return of the light. Gather at the hearthstone and come into the firelight. Enter the circle out of the cold. Let the fire burn brightly and the and the harvest be plenty, as we await the dawn and return of the light.
We gather together this morning as a community of seekers to honor the interdependence of life, to respect the dignity of all, and to honor the land we walk humbly upon. Friends, let us acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territories of the Lenape, the Oneida, the Ottawa, and the Wyandot, the original nations of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. We are blessed with a beautiful space and an opportunity to strive to live our common values, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of world community with peace and liberty and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Blessed be.
I'd like to invite Vivian forward to light the chalice. With these words of Nick Wilbur, we gather here today to share and give thanks, to tell stories and to break bread and be together in holy communion. We light our chalice this morning in the spirit of thanksgiving, with love, hope, and generosity of spirit, grateful for this blessed opportunity to be together. Let's rise and join our voices in our opening hymn, number 349, We Gather Together. You can either use the hymnal or sing from the screen.
Hello, good morning, Colleen.
Oh, hi. How are you today, Reverend Christina?
I am just fine, Colleen Taylor, Director of Religious Education here at UUCK.
Wonderful. You know, I'm really excited about Thanksgiving, Christina. I'm super jazzed. Yeah. I love being with my family. I love being with my friends.
Yeah.
But man, do I love the food.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, the pumpkin pie, the sweet potato pie,
Right?
apple pie, all kinds of berry pies, all the pies.
So you're heading straight for dessert.
I love the pies.
Yeah,
Christina.
they're good. They're good.
But you know, when I was a little girl, I would go to my grandmother's house and I would walk in and I would just be hit with this wall of aromas of nuts and berries and sure, there was turkey, but it was just this blend of aromas that just filled me with such joy and such happiness. And if I smell, you know, when you catch that smell and it takes you right back to that moment. Yes. What are some of your favorite Thanksgiving foods? Stuffing, mashed potatoes.
Stuffing. All right, we got some carbs going now.
What was that?
Good stuff.
Cranberry sauce. Oh,
Cranberry.
from the can, people.
Yeah.
With the ridges. Yes. Gravy. Gravy on all of it. Yes, Sonis. Yes. Absolutely.
We're going
I'm
to be
getting hungry.
we're going to be a little bit controversial today, but we're not going to get into the fresh canned cranberry. That is too far.
I take both. I want
We're not going
both.
to take that on. But did you know, Colleen, that many of the foods that you mentioned were originated in North and South America? They were
Did not know
unknown to
that.
the rest of the parts of the world until people came here and discovered that indigenous folks had noticed these plants and their nutritious qualities and how delicious they were and cultivated them so that their peoples could enjoy these foods as staple crops, like potatoes and corn. Did somebody mention corn? And you mentioned pumpkin pie, so squash, and a number of berries. So a lot of the foods that we think of as like world foods, tomatoes, are actually originated here on Turtle Island. Chocolate, thank you.
Chocolate.
I always forget to mention that one, and that's like the most, I mean, to me, that's a really important one. Thank you. Thank you. So, so we thought, Colleen and I thought that we would kind of celebrate that today with a little tasting meditation. So we have some foods up here that are here for you to take. So maybe take, 2 or 3 of these little tidbits, and we're going to have a little ritual where we'll invite you to come up and take something that looks good to you. Many of the foods here are commonly on our Thanksgiving table in another form, and many of them are the foods that indigenous people have given as gifts to the world. So, and then as you take them and go back to your seat, if you can, try to hold off from eating them. You might be hungry.
Is Kurt here?
Maybe you missed breakfast this morning, but try to hold off because we're going to do a little tasting meditation, okay? So please come on up and select some little tidbits for yourself. right. Everybody have their little treats there. All right. So we're going to take a little moment to bring all of our senses, or most of our senses, to these treats that we have. So you can start by just, if you want to, you can close your eyes or whatever, and just kind of feel the little treat that you have in your hand. Is it heavy? Is it light? And maybe it's too sticky for you to really take a hold of. Don't, just do what you can. But you can either touch it a little bit or imagine what it would feel like if you touched it. Would it be dry or wet? Would it be, would it be moist? Would it have a stickiness to it, or would it be smooth or rough? What would that texture be? And then when you're ready, you can look down at your treat that you've selected and just examine it a little bit. What color is it? What shape? What does it remind you of? Is it rough, bumpy, smooth looking? Is it big or small? Is it round or flat or thin? And then when you're ready, you can examine this little item with your sense of smell. So feel free to hold it a little closer and see what it smells like as you continue to anticipate and investigate this little treat. And then finally, after you've taken in the aroma of this special item, then finally I invite you to taste it. Just take a small bite, and with this first taste, think of all the ways that the plant, or the many plants, whatever was involved in this creation of this item, has literally taken sunlight and made it into sugars and starches and proteins for us to nourish our bodies. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a miracle? That is deserving of our gratitude. And then as you continue to enjoy this little item that you're eating, give thanks to those unknown, unnamed indigenous folks whose knowledge about plants, whose understanding of the natural world and our relationships to it led to this item that you are enjoying now. Imagine what life would be like without this food, right? Some of the things we have on the table: tomatoes, potatoes, corn, squash seeds, berries. Imagine if these things had never been cultivated, if these things had never been brought into our diets, how much less of a beautiful world we would have. So let's all give thanks for the opportunity to enjoy the flavors and the textures and the nourishing qualities of these foods. And I invite you, as you move into your time of Thanksgiving, to take a look at your Thanksgiving table and just notice which of those foods are foods from North and South and Central America, and to have an extra measure of gratitude for those beautiful foods that we enjoy every day and sometimes take for granted. Thank you. And you can continue chewing and enjoying as we move into a time where we hold one another in care and compassion. So let's take a little bit of silence now, maybe with some slight chewing sounds, to reflect on all that's in our hearts and reflect on our gratitude for this community. And among the sorrows or the concerns that were shared with us today, Don Gregg asks for healing thoughts for his father who has fractured a vertebra. Don, our hearts are with you and your father, with wishes and hopes for a good recovery. And now please join me in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, Divine One, known by so many names, we are so grateful for this time together, for good food to eat and to nourish our bodies with. In this time when we consider the monthly theme of repair, we ask that we be shown ways that we can help to heal, repair, and nurture our communities, those around us whose lives are not dwelling in abundance. Because we know that we are the hands and the feet and the heart of your love, expressed through us and our commitment to care for one another. And so we hold all of this community in love and all those who are experiencing lack at this time of year, at the same time that we express gratitude for the gifts of the earth and the gifts that we give to each other. Amen. And we like to end with joy. I want to also make sure I check the folks on Zoom, and Kat is sharing a joy, which we've also got here. So several people are expressing joy and happiness at Vivian's 70th birthday. We're so glad to celebrate with you. And we also are celebrating, I know there are some proud moms, maybe I'm one of them, who are celebrating the opening of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat this weekend, and Raphael and Lo are in the cast, and we're so proud of them. Danny shares gratitude at having, yes, I'm very grateful to be with you all and to be in this community at Thanksgiving time, and I'm glad that you're expressing gratitude as well. I'm grateful for this beautiful relationship that we share. Thank you. And finally, Justin is super happy that he's here with his friend and kind of family member, Caleb. So this was expressed in the earlier service. So lots of joy in the community today, and for all these things, we are very grateful.
Our reading today from the Reverend David Schwartz. Who is freedom for? We gather at Thanksgiving in some sense to retell the creation myth of this country. In this myth is our very best and our very worst, a boldness, a care for the common good, a wish to say we before I. Yet, from even before the first Thanksgiving feast, it's a story of theft and violence and a ruthlessly narrow definition of who we really means. The colonists had come seeking freedom, and in that we identify with them, but it was freedom only for themselves. In every generation forward from that day to this, the people living in this land that became America struggled always with the question, who is freedom for? Black persons were taken from their native Africa to become enslaved. Immigration laws were written explicitly to prohibit non-Western Europeans. Women could not vote even a century ago. In many states right now, gays and lesbians can be legally fired or evicted merely for not being straight. Refugees knock, and in response, voices call to bar the door. The Universalist minister Clarence Skinner wrote a century ago, "The fight for freedom is never won. Each generation must win for itself the right to emancipate itself from its own tyrannies, which are ever unprecedented. Therefore, those who have been reared in freedom bear a tremendous responsibility to the world to win an even larger and more important liberty. So may it be for us. We are the inheritors of our liberty, won with the sweat and labor and blood of generations before us. May we be a people committed to winning an ever larger liberty for the generations that follow. Who is freedom for? May we answer today and always, every one of us.
So here we are in the midst of a complicated year, about to celebrate a complicated Thanksgiving. Most of us have heard by now the ways that we have been told the Thanksgiving story again and again so that it became cemented in our understanding, a myth about what this holiday is really about. We know that there was no turkey, squash, cranberry sauce, or pumpkin pie at that meal that was labeled later on, looking back, the first Thanksgiving. We know that it was neither the first Thanksgiving for the colonial arrivals or for the native peoples who sat down to eat with them. That there was a holiday, a harvest holiday, that they brought with them from Europe that was celebrated once a year. And we know that the indigenous people of this continent celebrate gratitude every day of their lives. So it was certainly not the first Thanksgiving for them. We know that the holiday was declared much later with a sense of victory over wars against indigenous people. And for this reason, it has been labeled Thanksgiving, and many people do not celebrate it. So what are we to do with this holiday? What are we to do with this time, this custom? Many of us love Thanksgiving. It's difficult to let go of that dream, isn't it? I've always loved Thanksgiving. Maybe it's because I wasn't raised Christian, and so most of the holidays of our dominant culture just felt like something that belonged to some other people that I was just hanging on to. But Thanksgiving, that was my favorite. It was always about gratitude for what you have, not presents and trying to get more things. It wasn't about getting stuff. It was about enjoying time with family and friends. It wasn't about being of one particular faith. It was about being an American. And at that time, that felt very inclusive to me. At least it was for Americans who looked like me, who had ancestors who came from the place that I came from, who came here from Europe. That's who it felt inclusive for. But for the people who had been here all along, I learned that it felt very different. So we celebrate this Thanksgiving myth still to this day with pageants all over North America, telling stories of dubious origin to our children. Stories full of half-truths and inconsistencies. But let's bring some indigenous voices into this conversation, shall we? I want to introduce you to an acquaintance of mine named Perry Ground. And Perry is a historian. He is a storyteller in his own Onondaga tradition. He's a person with one foot in the academic culture of Anglo-America and also a full participant in his own indigenous nation and in the Turtle Band. And his take on Thanksgiving goes something like this. I'm paraphrasing it a little bit from Perry. He says, yes, this holiday has been misrepresented to us, and yes, various leaders have shaped it and reshaped it to suit the needs of the moment and their own political ends. And yet, there was terrible bloodshed and there was incomprehensible suffering later in the history of these two groups, the Wampanoag, of what we now know as Massachusetts, and the Dutch separatists who became Plymouth Colony. But the peace that they negotiated, Perry shares, lasted for 50 years. And the gathering, that first gathering, which was not by any stretch of imagination the first Thanksgiving for anyone there, it was still an intercultural gathering that occurred in peace and in fellowship. It was good food and good company, though not turkey and mashed potatoes. It was gratitude for survival and for all the blessings of life, even life amidst terrible adversity. So Perry's challenge for us is to abandon the saccharine stories of the buckled shoes and the first Thanksgiving, and to reach out for the completeness of the truth, and to find the good within that real story, and if we can, to celebrate it, not by sweeping the terrible parts under the carpet, but by recognizing they did occur, mourning them, and learning from them, and still choosing to celebrate the good.
O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land. I know the history here is painful. O land, you know your healing's woven with the people. peoples, O land on which I stand. Oh, holding me, O land upon which I stand. Oh, holding me, I feel your gravity. Where you meet my feet, I can hear your heartbeat. If I listen carefully, O land upon which I stand. Oh, holding me, O land upon which I stand. Oh, holding me.
We know that turkey and yams were not on the table at that celebrated meal in 1621. Does this mean that we have to give them up? For a perspective on Thanksgiving foods, I've turned to a chef, Sean Sherman, who's author of The Sous Chef's Indigenous Kitchen, for which he won the James Beard Award. Sean says, many of my indigenous people refuse to celebrate Thanksgiving, protesting the whitewashing of the horrors that our ancestors went through. And I don't blame them, but I have not abandoned this holiday. I've just changed how I practice it. The thing is that we don't need the poisonous Pilgrims and Indians narrative. We do not need any of that illusion of past unity to actually unite people today. Instead, we can focus on values that apply to everybody: togetherness, generosity, and gratitude. And we can make this day about what everybody really wants to talk and think about anyway: the food. Sean says people may not realize it, but what every person in this country shares and this very history of this nation has been in front of us on our plates the whole time. Most of our Thanksgiving recipes are made with indigenous foods: turkey, corn, beans, pumpkin, maple, wild rice, and the like. And we should embrace this. For years, especially as the head of a company that focuses on indigenous foods, Sean says he's explored these native foods, and it gives him and can give all of us a deeper understanding of the land that we stand on. So no matter where you are in North America, you're on indigenous land. We know this. And on the holiday of Thanksgiving, and on any day really, Sean urges people to explore a deeper connection to foods that are called American by understanding their true Native American histories, and begin using what grows naturally all around us, and to support Native American growers if we can. There's no need to make Thanksgiving about a false past. It feels so much better when it celebrates the nutritious beauty of the present.
O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land upon which I stand, holding me, I the gravity where you meet my feet. I can hear your heartbeat if I listen carefully. O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land. I know the history here's painful. O land, you know your healing's woven with the people. O land upon which I stand, holding me, O land upon which I stand, holding me.
For a final Indigenous voice in this trio of perspectives on Thanksgiving, I turn to one of my favorite authors, Potawatomi writer and plant biologist Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who lives in the east coast of the US. For Kimmerer, setting aside just one day to practice gratitude is, in a word, stingy. It's important to note that gratitude, as we said, is woven throughout the very foundations of the indigenous cultures of North America. And there are many essays in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, that focus in some way on gratitude. Living among the Haudenosaunee nations, she expresses particular appreciation for their Thanksgiving address, which has nothing to do with a holiday, but it is given at every public gathering throughout the year, in which every part of creation is thanked, one, by the assembled company. And Kimmerer proposes that every school child in America should be taught the virtues of gratitude by listening to the Thanksgiving address and participating in it on a regular basis. She says, you can't listen to the Thanksgiving address without feeling wealthy. And while expressing gratitude seems innocent enough, it's a revolutionary idea. In a consumer society, contentment is a radical proposition. Recognizing abundance rather than scarcity underscores an economy that thrives by creating unmet desires in us. Gratitude cultivates an ethic of fullness, but the economy needs emptiness from us for us to keep it going. So the Thanksgiving address reminds you that you already have everything you need. This kind of Thanksgiving, Kimmerer writes, reminds me of how the world was meant to be in its original condition. We can compare the roll call of gifts bestowed on us with their current status. Are all the pieces of the ecosystem still here and doing their duty? Is the water still supporting life? Are all the birds still healthy? When we can no longer see the stars because of light pollution, the words of the Thanksgiving address should awaken us to our losses and spur us to restorative action. Like the stars themselves, these words can guide us back home. Now, you've heard three very different perspectives on Thanksgiving, and there are many other Native American perspectives available to us, as many as there are Indigenous people. These are just three that provoked my thoughts. Now, I plan to enjoy my Thanksgiving meal this Thursday, and as I do, I will continue to share these perspectives with those around me. I'll continue to educate myself and my family about the true history of the holiday that we call Thanksgiving. And I'll celebrate the parts of the story that are beautiful and worthy of our appreciation, while not ignoring or whitewashing the true and disturbing history of Europeans on this continent. I'll practice gratitude and try to remember to always hold appreciation for the incredible variety of foods that come from North America, and I'll learn more about Indigenous ways to prepare them. Most of all, I'll try to find ways to practice gratitude and generosity every single day of the year, not just on the fourth Thursday in November. May all of us have that courage and that curiosity to re-examine histories, holidays, and national myths with an eye towards the truth. May we learn to listen with respect to the voices of those whose cultures and communities have been marginalized. And may the practice of gratitude lead us all to appreciate what we have, to find contentment with the real blessings in our lives, and to share our abundance with those around us every day of the year. Thank you. And as the choir assembles, we will now have a practice of generosity for this community and for organizations outside of our walls that are doing the work of Unitarian Universalist values in action. This month of November, we are taking a special collection for Feeding America, which is a national organization that aims to eliminate hunger and to provide nourishing food for all those who lack it. So there are several ways to give. They're all on your screen. I invite you to be generous during this time of generosity. Thank you for your gifts.
All the day and
As we bring our service to its close, will you please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice flame? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing hymn, number 317 in the hymnal, We Are Not Our Own, verses 1 through 3. Please rise and join in body or in spirit.
Our benediction today is a Wampanoag prayer. Let every day be one of giving thanks. Let every being of creation along our paths be appreciated. Let all plant life be acknowledged. Let all the winged ones of the air know our gratefulness. Great Spirit, thank you for all that is. For all we take, we will give, at least our acknowledgement. Thank you for every mountain and every grain of sand, for water and air, fire and earth, for every living thing, and for the beauty of our lives this day. We thank you. Amen.